Okay, yeah, I guess let's get started and see if people join in. Oh, okay, it's recording already, so I'll just trim the video. Okay, welcome to our 20th 4844 call. I'll post the agenda in the chat right here. There were a couple small specs issues that I think people wanted to bring up in the context of launching the next DevNet. So it probably makes sense to start just going over all of those. And then once we've done that, we can talk about the different status of the implementations as well as when and how we want to launch a DevNet. Okay, a couple people just joined as we're getting started. So yeah, I added all the things in the agenda. So Frollo just wanted to highlight there's been a small change by Mikhail in like an error code. It's literally just a one, not even a one line change, one value change. Anyone just have thoughts, comments on that? Okay.
It looks straightforward to me. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an alignment from my understanding that the error code has been changed. Cool. And yeah, so that's nothing bad.
I accidentally joined the portal call because at the same time. Sorry.
Glad you chose to come over here.
I saw Piper there and was like, "Oh shit, Portal's going to integrate 4844."
Yeah, good timing. We literally just got started. Okay, sorry, Mikhail, you were saying so it's just the error code change, and I think you were saying like why it was changed.
Yeah, it was a discrepancy between the spec for blob extension and between the main spec. Yeah, because there was a change at some point in time. We aligned the error codes with, I don't remember why, but still. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Yeah. Any other comments on that? Okay. Next up then, actually, yeah, Mikhail, this was your suggestion. So basically you mentioned, merging get payload v3 and get blobs and bundle v1. I guess I'd be curious to hear from folks, if we want to do this in the context of the next DevNet, or if this is maybe something we want to do after that DevNet. And maybe Mikhail, you could just give like a bit of background on why we'd want to do that.
Yeah, sure. So a bit of a background. When this blob extension was introduced, the get blobs bundle was separate because it was easier to prototype and spec out in addition to get payload. So it makes sense for a prototype and all this kind of stuff. But since we're heading towards the specking out the engine API changes for Cancun, this is just one of the outstanding questions that we need to resolve. And FLCL, unfortunately, I don't know the name, has raised this question in the Discord recently, and I thought that that's a perfect momentum to discuss it with their client developers, whether we want to keep them separate or we want to merge these two, because this is basically the same build process that from which we are obtaining the payload and the blobs. So this is a one-to-one relation between the payload and blobs. And at the first glance, it seems like there is no sense to keep them separate. So the get payload basically can return both. But maybe, developers have different opinion on that. And yeah, I was just going to bring this for discussion. We don't need to decide this for next couple of DevNets probably, or 3 DevNets, but we will have to decide it soon in order to, spec it out and have it tested if we want to get them merged, more extensively tested.
Got it. Thanks. Does anyone have any thoughts on this from the client teams?
I don't see the use of having them separate, so I'm good with merging it.
Yeah, I guess does anyone want to advocate for keeping them separate? Okay, I guess in that case, then yeah, let's open a PR to merge them. I wouldn't probably include that in the next DevNet unless people feel strongly that we should. So we don't have to rework that as well. But does that make sense to people?
Is it a significant reworking? I guess seems like it's fairly limited in scope, but not entirely sure.
I assume you're removing an API and passing some parameters that were previously passed in the removed API and the new one, but maybe there's something I'm missing.
Does anyone feel strongly whether it should or should not go in the next DevNet?
Maybe not next DevNet, but yeah, could be done quite soon.
Yeah, I think my preference is probably to my preference would probably be to just not include it in the next DevNet and have the PR open for it so that we can start doing multi-client testing as soon as possible. But yeah, weakly held opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the hope was this would be a more longer-lived DevNet, and the more changes like this, minimizes that, right? Minimizes the chance of that. So.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
But I mean,
we have not advocate that DevNet 5 be the longer living, because most probably we'll have more clients joining in maybe in the next DevNet, and it would be nice that can be the longer living.
Oh, so you're saying, yeah, DevNet 5, we might not have everybody, but DevNet 6, we likely will?
Yep, hopefully.
Okay, in that case, I think, yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Or, potentially the clients that join will also have bugs which require us to restart the DevNet. Obviously, you always hope this isn't the case, but practice seems possible. So yeah, let's open a PR for this and not have it in scope as part of DevNet 5. Yeah, and then obviously, if anyone not on this call has issues with the change, they can leave those comments on the PR.
Cool.
Yeah, anything else on this? Okay. Otherwise, Gajinder, you had 3 PRs you wanted to highlight regarding DevNet 5. We can maybe just go through each of them to make sure everyone's on the same page. The first one is a PR you've made to the execution APIs.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
I guess I could back up. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So actually, the first PR, the result of the EIP update PR, which basically add proofs to the transaction wrapper. So basically, for the serialized transaction, and since now the proofs are available to EL, so that they can just be passed to the CL through get blobs API call, and which is basically the second API. And the third API, so these two are sort of part of DevNet 5 specs, but it would be nice that if these can be reviewed and merged, because there are some renamings in the EIP-4844 PR 6610 So it might lead to some renamings on the execution API for blobs bundle. And the third PR is about blob signing points, endpoints, which basically extend the current endpoints to provide and publish.
Oh, I think we lost.
Yeah, I can't hear him either.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Did I hear him right? That these are all in scope for DevNet 5? Mofi, is that your understanding?
Yeah, they're in scope.
Yeah.
So I think,
What's the implementation status in Geth? Is it to do?
yeah, to do, but shouldn't be a large change.
FLCL, I'm not sure what the actual name is. You have your hand
Alexei.
up? Oh, Alexei. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I will place 2 names there next time. So the question was is about blobs bundle V1, which may include now proofs, according to the suggestion, right? Just wanted to know why we have hadn't these proofs previously there. Are they useful at all on sales side? This is the question.
So on the CL side, once we get the bundle from execution layer, we just run a verify proof batch to verify everything is in order. That's where the proofs and commitments get used, and post that the signing and publishing flow happens.
I see, but how did it work before? I mean, we did not pass proof, right? To you.
So we can generate proof since commitments and blobs are there, but I mean it sort of feels ugly to me doing this on the CL side because not really is required. I mean, you don't require to generate commitments or proofs either. You can just push the bundle to the verification function and be done with it.
Okay, does it make it more secure? The proof matches. I mean, if we send proofs, wasn't it less secure previously?
I don't think there are any changes in security guarantees because if the setup is same, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, you should get the same proof.
Okay, quick question. So I think we had something like this before Free the Blobs, where the proofs were generated on the EL side. And I recall we got rid of it because of the additional time to compute the proofs, and we wanted to minimize the time for block building on the EL. So I guess my question here is it still a concern, like computing those proofs on the EL side? Would it necessarily lengthen the time to build the blocks?
So the proofs on the EL side are coming through transaction wrapper layer because that's what the EIP 4844 PR 6610 proposes. It basically, earlier there was an aggregate proof, but now the update on the PR is on the EIP is that the proofs will come bundle in the serialized transaction. So there is no need to compute on EL side as well.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, the main issue before was the aggregate proof computation. That was pretty expensive. Okay, cool.
So we, as the execution layer side, we do not need to verify proofs. Or we still need it.
Sorry, I didn't get a question.
Do we still need to verify proofs on execution layer side at all? or we can just send it to consensus layer after this update, and we'll spend less time on transaction verification in memory pool.
I mean, if it's part of specs, then EL could basically probably skip checking the proof, but since the transactions would be broadcasted, or at least the hashes would be broadcasted to other peers, I don't basically suggest that proof not be checked on EL side.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other comments on this? I guess, is this something we'd want to add for V5? Does anyone disagree with that?
Are we still talking about the third of these three, or is this a different issue?
Oh, sorry. The third. Yeah, okay, yes, the third in the full list. I thought you meant the third of this of Gajinder's 3 PRs. So adding the proofs to Blob's bundle V1.
Got it.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know. If we are moving, kind of merging get payload V3 with it for the next DevNet, it seems like it's reasonable to just also include that in like DevNet 6 rather than DevNet 5, so that we're not actually changing Blob's bundle V1 in DevNet 5, but I don't know if anyone feels differently or.
I thought this sort of seems like a requirement. If we're including decoupled blobs to DevNet 5, then don't we also need to add the proofs to the blobs bundle endpoint?
Okay, yeah, we definitely should include the decoupled blobs. And sorry, I didn't realize this was a must-have basically to, if we were to do that. So yeah, then if this is required to decouple the blobs, then I think we should make this change.
Yeah, at least that's my understanding. Maybe Gajinga, you have any thoughts here?
I mean, yeah, basically it saves the computation both on EL side and CL side. So I guess we can do this.
Okay, and if we are doing this, then is this still like back to the previous issue? Do we still say like, should we also merge get payload V3 and the get blobs bundle at the same time? Like, are we gonna, waste time by separating those two changes, or should we? Is it? I assume it's much easier to just add the proof. So, but yeah, I don't know. How do people feel about that?
I mean, on the CL side, the change would not really be a big deal. I mean, it should be a couple of hours if everything else is in place. So I am okay if we can merge it even for DevNet 5.
Gajinder, which one were you talking about?
I assume the second. I assume merging the execution PI.
Yeah,
merging the PUF
with the payload, get payload in get payload 3.
Oh. Okay, so you're saying it's only a few hours of work to merge get payload and get blobs bundled. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean on the CL side, yes.
Okay. I don't know if there's anyone from
I don't
even
EL. Think even on EL side, because EL would be caching all that data anyway, so it can just return the full content in the get payload 3.
Okay, so
yeah, I don't think it's a big deal for the EL side, but I don't know. I'm wondering if there's other EL clients that have opinions strong or not so strong on this before we slate it for DevNet 5. Do we have like a, usually Terrence is pretty clued in. I don't know if he's in the call.
Yeah.
Looks like he might not be.
No, he's not. So basically, but he says that they have a local DevNet running with multiple Prism nodes. They're ready to join a multi-client DevNet. So I assume in terms of just like, if this is just a few hours of work, it shouldn't. They're not delayed or they're not behind in any way. Yeah.
Okay. So do we include it or not?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the CL side just to have a strong opinion.
Yes, CL is relatively easy as well. I mean, I don't see any challenges.
Okay, let's tentatively include it. I guess we can always back out of it if it turns out to be too much. So we will run it by Terrence and a few other folks, I guess, to confirm.
Yeah, and to be clear, so we're tentatively including both changes. So merging get payload v3 and get blobs bundle v1. And I don't know that we have a PR for that quite yet. And then we would also include the proofs as part of the blobs bundles. So we would need, So we just, perfect. So we just need a spec for the get payload v3 and get blobs bundle v1 merge. Okay, anything else on that? Okay. Your next PR that you mentioned, Gajinder, is the update to 4844 to decouple the blobs. I assume this simply reflects the functionality that was already merged on the CL side. Is that correct?
So basically, it changes the network wrapper to have proofs instead of aggregate proof. And there are a few renamings of KZG to commitments. Nothing more than that.
Okay. Any thoughts, comments on that? So I assume we should just merge this, and there's like still some comments on the PR, but like, we merged this, it's effectively part of DevNet 5 already.
Yeah, I think this is already implemented, I believe.
Yeah.
In Geth, anyway. If I'm Mofi, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And then last one of the PRs you brought up, Gajinder, is the blob signing endpoint. Let me post this in the chat as well here. Do you want to give some quick background on that one?
Yeah. So this is sort of internal communication between beacon node and validator, how to sign the block and blobs. So basically, what it really does is that it extends the current produce and publish API endpoints for DNAP fork to include to sort of use block contents rather than the block. Block contents are basically block plus blobs sidecar. And so this is basically internal communication between a beacon node and a validator, how to sign it. And it's sort of optional in the sense that if there are no cross beacon node / validator communications, which we generally don't test for in the DevNets, then it is sort of an optional thing. But since we are trying to, we are going this way, I mean, it could be an optional requirement to sort of push the implementation forward.
Anyone have thoughts on this?
I'm not sure I've had a chance to fully digest this one.
Has anyone reviewed this basically?
So Lodestar has implemented it, I'm +1 for this.
Yeah, and I guess this doesn't change consensus or anything. So like it's fine if Lodestar has it, but like not Prism, correct?
Yeah, this is optional internal
Yeah.
communication between beacon node and validator.
Yeah, Teco already started implementing that one. It's not completed yet, but we are going to be compatible with this PR.
Got it. Okay, so I'd say, I mean, we can probably merge the PR in relatively soon. I see there's like a huge thread of comments, so obviously kind of want those resolved, but yeah, I guess this is sort of orthogonal to DevNet 5, so we don't really have to mention it as part of the specs. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I currently had it marked as optional in the DevNet
Yeah.
spec.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, then let's just leave it there. Like, yeah, so people have the information, but yeah. Okay, so I guess to recap, and I'll post your spec actually, Mofi, thank you. So for the DevNet 5, we have the CL that obviously decouples the blobs and blocks, switches the transaction type, and the EL built on top of Shanghai, no zero blob transactions, change the transaction type as well, decouple the blobs. And then on the engine API, we're adding the proofs to blobs bundle v1. And I guess the other thing we would make is we would merge blobs bundle v1 and get payload v3. So that's, I think, the only thing that's not quite in the spec as of right now. And then the beacon API at this optional PR we just mentioned. Does this make sense to people as a general spec for DevNet 5? Okay. Sweet. So let's move forward for that. Just really one bullet point to change on what it looks like. And yeah, curious to hear from the different client teams where they are at. Terrence said, you know, they're ready to join a multi-client DevNet basically ASAP. Lighthouse said in the chat or in the comments, sorry, that they probably need another week or two. And yeah, Lodestar seems ready as well, it seems. I don't know if there's any other client teams or if anyone on those teams wants to expand.
Yeah, maybe Nimbus, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Henry. Nimbus here, I'd say probably in the Lighthouse time range. I'm wrapping up. So we have sync working. I'm wrapping up gossip and fetching missing blobs during gossip, etc. That's probably the last PR is going up today or tomorrow for that. And then there'll be some tying up loose ends and stuff. So I'm guessing another week to two.
Got it.
Yeah, on the Stack side, yeah, more on the 2 weeks time frame. Hopefully, we're still doing some work on the storage side, plus, yeah, working on the import flow yet, and the API, as mentioned before, we're implementing to be compatible with the PR, but it's not completed yet. So still work in progress. Hopefully, we'll join later after DevNet 5 launch.
Thank you. Anyone from the EL side?
Never mind. Has a previous scope implemented and just needs like a week to align with these new items.
Cool. Roberto, how about Geth and or Aragon?
Yeah, so Aragon and Geth, I think, are approximately in the same state, so which is pretty up to date. Yeah, other than those PRs that a few PRs that we've discussed today, which we should be able to fairly easily add.
Okay. So it
Although
seems like there's please.
I guess I should caveat that with Aragon has not been extensively tested recently. I just completed a bunch of updates this weekend. Have not run any tests, but at least got the upstream merged and some recent changes implemented.
Nice. And there's a comment from Gijinder that Ethereum JS should also be able to join. So it seems like we probably have like half the clients at least, give or take. So and obviously, you know, there's going to be a couple days of just implementing the last changes that we agreed on today. But yeah, is it realistic to try and stand up the DevNet before the CL call this Thursday, and that if we run into any issues doing that, that we can't sort of debug async, we can cover it there? That gives us like 3 days.
I would say probably not.
Okay.
Maybe like next Monday or Tuesday would be a better date.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think is like the blocker? Like, yeah, I guess, you know, yeah. What do you think? Is there anything specific you feel like we need to figure out this week, or is it just implementing the stuff we just discussed?
It's implementing them and just the availability of devs here to do the interop in particular.
Okay. Fair enough. So I guess then, in that case, maybe, and I see a couple like thumbs up on the screen. In that case, what I would maybe do is let's, you know, check in on this in a few days on the CL call as well, and aim for something, you know, early next week going live. Yeah, does that make sense to people?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay. And I guess on like a similar note, I would definitely keep a 4844 only call 2 weeks from now as well. And we can use that to sort of coordinate whether we want to shut down DevNet 5, move to DevNet 6 and whatnot. Yeah. Lucas?
So I have a question about 4844 testing. So one thing is the DevNet, but I have a question. What's the plan for Hive tests? Are they being developed? Are they like still being postponed? Or what's the plan here?
Yeah, we have Mario on the call, yeah.
Yeah, we're still working on that. We started with the reference test for the execution layer clients, and we have those almost ready. But yeah, for the engine API and all that, we still have to work on it. And yeah, we have them. I mean, we have to start this week, so probably next week we'll have something to test the changes on Hive.
Cool.
Cool. Any other question on the DevNet schedule, testing or whatnot?
I have a query with regard to the CL side spec test. I think it's still using that transaction prefix as 05.
We're working on a release right now. Should be out by tomorrow with 03. I suggest using that for, that's also in relation to the head of the EIP. So I think we should use that, and the tests will be ready tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we should definitely use type 3. Okay, anything else on the DevNet or testing? Okay, in that case, Danny, you mentioned you had a point around the mempool and new payload.
Yeah, so this came up in Edelweiss. Essentially, Peter would like to have the quality of service such that upon a reorg, any type 3 transactions could be put back into the mempool, so that users have the same experience they have with normal transactions today. And he and I spoke, and so to make that happen, you have to essentially break the barrier between the consensus layer and execution layer a bit more, and on new payload, give the blobs the execution layer so that they can have them around in the event of a reorg to rebuild the transactions, the full transactions. We had spoken, Peter and I, that maybe actually to not break that barrier, not change the engine API, what you can actually do is anything that's come through the mempool, you have the blobs, and so you can provide that quality of service to users to have them reinserted. But essentially, if you bypass the mempool, you don't have a guarantee to get back in because the consensus layer doesn't give them the execution layer, and that would not require the new payload change. I thought that we were kind of in agreement on that. I took a look at Peter's slides from a talk in Tokyo the other day where it implied otherwise. I just wanted to surface this as a design point to the group that like this does seem like an unknown point as to whether we agree that there should be a change here, whether the change would happen, whether Peter's assuming it will happen, that kind of stuff. So I don't have discussion points beyond that. People can obviously weigh in their opinions here, but we probably need to have this conversation somewhere. Otherwise, I think the conversation, if we don't concertedly have it, is going to like happen in 4 or 6 weeks and still be a debate. That's, you know, a breaking change.
Danny, could you please repeat the alternative where we are not passing blobs back to EL, whether EL stores them or what happens?
Right. So essentially, you want EL, or you might want a world in which EL has all of the blobs in relation to transactions that made it on chain, such that when you do a reorg, you can rebuild those transactions and put them in the mempool. To do so, if on new payload, CL inserted those transactions, then they would have them for guaranteed, you know, even the things that bypass the mempool, they'd have those blobs available and then they could prune them, you know, after finality or something like that. The alternative is instead of the guarantee being all blob transactions can be rebuilt on a reorg, if you just have it all blob transactions that hit the mempool can be built, then you don't need to change new payload because EL will have whatever it got from the mempool. It can choose to cache those blobs for X period of time or till finality to be able to handle rebuilds on reorgs. But that essentially means that anything that hit the mempool can have this quality of service. If you bypass the mempool, tough luck, you need to bypass the mempool again to reinsert. I do think that this strategy, not changing new payload, not inserting, and only being able to have this quality of service to the mempool is very reasonable, especially when you think about full sharding designs when it would be impossible for everything to hit the mempool. So it's not necessarily even a quality of service that can be that's reasonable to consider. But does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, so cool. I think it at least makes sense for me. This alternative.
I apologize. I was looking at Peter's slides and listening to you at the same time, so maybe this is just me having missed something. But it seems, as per Peter's slides, that he's saying that you can't reorg external blobs, and then it seemed like you were saying that this is fine if you basically can only reorg what's pinned in the mempool. So I guess maybe
So you can reorg anything. It's a matter of what gets put back into the mempool. I believe at like the last, maybe third or second to last slide, Peter mentions essentially that you insert, the solution is to insert blobs via new payload.
Oh, okay, got it. And so he's saying that like, okay, I guess I just read that differently than you. I think, okay, I see what you mean. Sorry, anyways, got it.
Am I reading it? Are we reading it the same now?
Well, I'm gonna go and listen to the talk to make sure.
Yeah, I
it's
haven't
available.
seen it.
Yeah, but the
Um,
way I read this is like the blob transactions are not fully bundled in a block. Reorgs of sync block will be unable to resurrect blobs. Beacon clients must provide the blobs in the new payload API calls. It reads like a sort of like, it's like maybe this has to happen, but I'm curious. Yeah.
Okay. That
Yeah.
was my, that was the intent, one of the intended designs, the end of Edelweiss,
Yeah.
but I thought maybe we had landed on compromise, but now I think that we haven't necessarily. So I just want to bubble it up as a discussion point and to not accidentally leave this sitting for 6 more weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there are also some opinions that perhaps we should just never rebuild these on reorg and just leave it up to the client. A few people took
Right,
that,
and
right.
Not putting it in new payload leaves it a bit more like unopinionated. Like the client can rebuild them, the ones that they saw, but like this isn't a core requirement of the software. But once you put in a new payload, it's obviously they still can only rebuild if they feel like it. But you've just made the like you've broken the abstraction a bit and kind of implied more heavily like this is why we're doing that.
So my recollection is I don't think, we ever made this decision. Like we basically never made the decision to change new payload, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I don't know if I don't,
we did punt on it, and I'm just worried that we're accidentally continuing to punt on it. But
yeah, it should be explicit. It's like we want an explicit commitment to do nothing if we are actually doing nothing.
Especially given that there is somebody who has very strong opinions about this. That is not on this call.
What is Peter's opinion? Is Peter's opinion that we do the full rebuilding on every reorg and change the API to support it? Or is he okay with the rebuild if you can kind of approach?
That's my read of the slides. I'm now speaking beyond what I have. But this seems like something we punted on, and I don't want it to accidentally catch us off guard.
Yeah, no,
okay.
thanks for raising it. I mean, I think we should loop in Peter and see if he still feels strongly one way or another.
Yeah, so I think maybe the next step here is like, I can reach out to Peter and the Get team generally async, and we can potentially cover this on the CL call, especially in the case where Peter's opinion is we should change this, which involves the CL much more. So okay. So I've made a note of that.
I mean, fortunately, Peter's working on a lot of this transaction pool machinery, kind of heads down right now. I think it works fine. The fundamentals don't change too much if it's rebuild if you can versus rebuild from new payload.
Cool. But let's ping him and make sure we actually understand his request. Cool. Anything else on this?
One kind of idea on that thing is probably CL can do something about it because CL will keep blobs anyway, and handling reorgs when reorg is happening, CL may just leave some blobs missed, and the CL can fill the gaps, but I don't think whether it's a good solution or not, but it's just an alternative, and it comes from the consideration that CL will have all bundles stored anyway. So I don't know what are the edge cases of that as well, and what's the complexity will be.
Are you suggesting that CL upon reorgs should have an endpoint to just give them, or are you suggesting otherwise?
No, I'm suggesting that EL returns transactions, and some of those transactions will not have blobs because EL will assume that CL has blobs for them, and the CL will just put those blobs in place. In some edge cases, it might not be the case, and transactions will be left without blobs. That's potential issue with this.
Yeah, I worry that like puts like a much more like stateful assumption between the two layers.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but CL actually is responsible for reorgs, right? So it reorgs from one chain to the other. Yeah, definitely there could be edge cases in that. So
yeah, I guess like if you
doesn't
come
feel
online,
like
like, you come online at the point of the reorg, you won't necessarily have it.
Yeah, probably. So it is really it makes sense to have this strategy with those that are bypassing mempool, not being included into reorgs. So yeah, sounds quite solid in terms of DA.
Yeah, my opinion is that's the simplest. It keeps the abstraction there. It doesn't put like doesn't make any sort of like new assumptions that are hard to hold during full sharding.
So my opinion is that CL is sort of anyway responsible for checking the data availability of the blocks. And if CL is sending a payload to EL through to new payload, I think EL should assume that CL has made sure that the data is available.
Yeah, and that's the assumption. It's just a matter of like, do you want to hand them to the EL as well for EL to have this like minor utility on reorgs?
The CL can definitely provide them if EL needs it.
Yeah, certainly. It's just a matter of, I think, if it's worth the complexity or worth the load even. Yeah, I think your plan's good, Tim. I think that
Yeah, okay.
we need to gather some information to continue the combo.
Yeah, and yeah, we should have at least some. We should at least know what Peter meant by Thursday's call. Cool. Anything else anyone wanted to cover? Okay. Otherwise, yeah, let's definitely keep 4844 specific call in 2 weeks and see if we still need them after that. But given all the stuff we have to do, yeah, given all the stuff we have to do in the next 2 weeks, probably makes sense to just have a separate breakout for this. But yeah, I think we can wrap up for today. Thanks everyone, and talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, guys.
All.
See you guys.
Have a good one.